It was a drear December night, more than 100 years ago, all across Europe. Trenches full of huddled combatants scarred the icy ground. Between them lay no man's lands, where ravening bursts of shrapnel, randomly detonating with deadly force, would kill people at any moment. And snipers were waiting for the flash of a face above the trench tops, and they would gleefully register their kills with a stroke of their finger in the dirt. And then late on the frigid night of December 24th, 1914, in a lull of shell fire, an unexpected sound wafted on the air. It was a Christmas carol being played on a violin. On both sides of the embattled lines, the soldiers hunkered down and listened. As they listened, men started to weep. Some said that they felt warmth for the first time in a very long while. And suddenly, one by one, those battle-hardened soldiers stood up. But though that made them clear targets, no sniper shots rang out. Instead, the strains of the carol floated above no man's land. And they began to sing, some in German, some in English. Stille Nacht, silent night, heilige Nacht, holy night. And the carol went on to say that all is calm, all is bright. Round yon virgin mother and child, holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace. Sleep in heavenly peace. And as the singing went on, first an English soldier and then a German soldier walked out, weaponless, and others followed, until all at once the trenches emptied. Hundreds of soldiers poured forth from them and greeted each other face to face, enemies shaking hands with enemy, each of them become comrades of the creche of the Christmas child. They gave little gifts to one another. They exchanged chocolates and showed each other pictures of their families. Flares were lit. A game of soccer was played. And as the German who started it all kept playing carols on his violin, an Englishman brought out an accordion, and the great music of Christmas was sung forth by one of Earth's strangest choirs. For those fleeting moments, the mighty tempest of World War I was calmed by a peace surpassing all. And that's the power of the peace of Christmas. It has a power to transcend the worst of the world's bitterness and enmity, all of our lesser instincts for vengeance or violence, all of the hatreds and greediness and powerfulness and pridefulness, which our human race is surely capable of, every one of us. But this peace of Christmas is a power that transcends the worst that we can do or be. And alas, as dawn neared, the soldiers went back into their trenches, and the hostilities very shortly resumed, and years of war lay ahead. And yet one wonders what a lasting impression it must have made on those who were there that night. Plus for us, there's an inspiration in this story. The Gospel of John says it so clearly that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has never extinguished it, never overtaken it, never put it out. And while our own situations, fortunately, nowhere near as dire as theirs, still the great question poses itself on this cusp of a new year. Namely, how will we, 21st century people of faith, embrace and embody God's peace and God's joy and God's love, that redeeming love that Neil read of a minute ago? How will those pathways of ours, the ones that we are yet to walk, be lit by the light that can never be put out? Now, whenever a new year arrives, we become more and more keenly aware, I think, that in Robert Frost's great words, we have miles to go before we sleep. So how might we make the most of each of those miles ahead? As midnight neared on the New Year's Eves of my childhood, my aunt would produce a sheet of yellowed typing paper and read Tennyson's classic New Year's poem. And I can still feel the tingle that those words produced in me. Ring out the old, ring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. The year is going, let him go. Ring out the false, ring in the true. Ring out a slowly dying cause and ancient forms of party strife. Ring in the nobler modes of life with sweeter manners, purer laws. Ring out false pride in place and blood, the civic slander and the spite. Ring in the love of truth and right. Ring in the common love of good. Ring in the valiant man and free, the larger heart, the kindlier hand. Ring out the darkness of the land. Ring in the Christ that is to be. Of course, in the bubbly flush of those first few minutes of a spanking new year, everything seems gilded with potentiality. I just turned 10 when I proudly proclaimed to my parents at about 20 after 12 on that 1st of January, well, I said, I haven't made any mistakes yet. So even then, I must have sensed that if you took care of the minutes, they in turn would take care of the hours, and the hours would add up to the days that flash by us like mileposts on a superhighway. And so in this great meanwhile that very shortly now will be robing itself in a whole new calendar year, let's ponder this. How, in the words that Neil read from 2 Corinthians, how might we live up to Paul's immortal proclamation that if anyone is in Christ, that person is a new creation? The old has gone. The old has gone because the new has come. How will we live up to that in 2026? Indeed, my friends, won't Christ be inquiring of us throughout those 365 24-hour periods that lie directly ahead of us? Won't Christ be asking us, will you and how will you take steps to more consciously and indeed more conscientiously embody my peace and my joy and my love? Will your pathways be illumined by my light? These are questions for a Christian's new year. Or put it this way, how might we create channels through the shoals of life, channels through which the ship of joy with its divinely hoisted sails may find passage? And the same with the ship of love and the ship of peace. How can we open up channels for those sacred vessels to come sailing into our world It's not enough for them to come sailing in just on Christmas Day or on New Year's Day. Those channels need to be kept open every day, and that might require some dredging. Dredging, not drudging, you might say. Now, I found in my many years of ministry that people typically profit by having tangible tools to work their good intentions into serviceable shape. And so let me spend my few remaining minutes today suggesting a simple approach to more nearly, clearly, and dearly fulfilling those Christ-guided intentions of ours as the calendar pages of 2026 flip away day by day. Let's call it life arithmetic. Now, a little homework, okay? When you get home today, I'd like you to please take a sheet of copy paper, and I'd like you to draw a cross on it to create 4 equal-sized boxes. I don't know if you can read that, but what these words say are add, multiply, subtract, and divide. 4 equal boxes, right? Pretty simple. And I'd ask you to do them in that order. Add and multiply on the top and subtract and divide on the bottom. And I'd like you to make 2 of those sheets. I'd like you to consider one of them to apply to you personally, and consider the other to apply to your participation in your faith life, maybe in this church or even beyond Crawford and further forms of ministry, wherever you may live, if it's not around here, or through your volunteer efforts perhaps, or in your support of one worthy mission or another, or in some good cause that you find special. 2 sheets, one for you personally, one for all of that faith life stuff. So simply put, the 2 boxes at the top of the page are the things you want to do more of, add and multiply, and the things at the bottom of the page are what you want to do less of, subtract and divide. Let's think about what each of those might entail. So when you write out what you'd like to add to your life, and on that second sheet, whatever you want to add to your life here at your church and your wider commitments, what might be some examples of that? Well, for instance, when Sally and I moved to Brooksby Village, what I henceforth wanted was to pursue only such things as would be deeply congruent with my deepest interests and my most effective gifts. Personally, they were things like writing more consistently and becoming involved in creative and connective ways in my new community. It's a great community up there, 1,800 people. It's like a village. I wanted to become more involved. I wanted to find things to teach, like I have an avocation of teaching literature. Also, I wanted to add new friendships. You know, out here, we lived in Medford, right off the square. We had friends, but we have more friends at Brooksby, many more friends at Brooksby in 4 years than we had in nearly 30 living there. And I wanted to keep traveling with Sally, too, and she with me. And so that was what I wanted to add in my personal way. And then also in my faith life, I wanted to keep ways, finding ways to share Christ's word. I wanted to lead Bible studies, perhaps, or visit friends who had fallen ill. I participate in a weekly group of theological professionals. I wanted to preach sermons. Here I am. So what is it for you? What might you like to add in 2026, both in your personal life and right here at church? And then there's that other box at the top of the page, multiplication. What might you want to invest at compound interest, say, right? So as to accumulate more of the same. One aspect of that which I often hear at Brooksby is spending more quality time with family, quality time with children and with grandchildren. Another is to do more things that are purely social in nature. We have a lot of opportunities for that. But what is it for you? Well, how about really digging more deeply into whatever hobbies float your boat? Or taking up some new activity or another that you've been meaning to take up, but just haven't. You've been procrastinating maybe. Maybe you like to do more of it, multiply it. Not just add it, but really make it more than it's been. And think about this again from your own personal perspective, and also with regard to the ministries of this congregation of yours and wherever beyond. And then there are the considerations at the bottom of the page, subtract and divide. And in fact, many of our typical New Year's resolutions tend to fall into the category of subtraction, right? You think about it, things like, shedding a bag or two of Meow Mix from my General Girth. We all got a couple of those little bags of Meow Mix there. Not all of us, but when you get to be my age, you do. Maybe that's something you'd like to subtract. Remember now, these sheets of yours are as confidential as you want them to be, so you can be as transparent as you want. You don't have to show them to anybody. Write down what you really need or what you truly desire to get out of your life. Dare to name it. What clutter? What unproductive distractions? What bad habits even? What disorganization, wasteful pursuits? How much time are you spending on those screens doing idle stuff? What's it time for you to stop doing? And finally, there's that fourth box. Name one or more of your present involvements that, while you may not intend to give them up entirely, have gotten to the point of being more than you feel willing or able to keep doing all by yourself. A sisterly friend of ours has finally chosen, after 15 years, to ask for a co-chair for her busy wine society that she's been organizing. Another friend enlisted her son and daughter to help her out a bit with her generous pledge to a favored environmental organization. I well recall how I once was asked to step in as a visitational pastor in the wake of the senior pastor's heart attack, because both he and his boards had realized that they now needed to divide the ever-growing work of pastoral ministry in a thriving suburban congregation. They needed to divide the effort. So go and find a bit of time, my friends, today, if you can, to write out your own answers to such arithmetical questions for a Christian's New Year. And be sure, I hope you'll be here the next week, the next several weeks, as we begin to experience the pathways of Epiphany. We'll be looking at and I guarantee you, a very interesting look at the Star of Bethlehem. I'm calling the sermon The Journey of the Star. You don't want to miss it. And it's the first of the 6 sermon series that Stacy has printed in your bulletin. It's right there, called Pathways of Epiphany. So see you then, and amen for now, and Happy New Year.